if you pass.
All right, so let's get rolling here. It is 11 a.m. or 11:01, I should say, a.m. All right, so tonight, or today, this morning, I should say, we're going to be talking about the professional education test. So obviously, the professional education test has a wealth of information on it. Over at UCF, I taught 4 of the main courses that go into this exam. One of them is reading. I didn't teach that class, but the classroom management, the learning theory, the assessment, educational psychology, all of those things I taught for years over at UCF. So there's a lot of information that goes into this test, but we're going to talk about some strategy here today. But the worst thing you can go about is trying to memorize everything on this test, because you do not need to memorize all the content. And we'll talk about that more as we roll on here today. All right, so before we begin, got a couple of housekeeping items to share with you. So one, and more importantly, I got a lot of emails over the last couple of days because some people had to go back to work today. Some people didn't. Some people have family obligations. So yes, I am recording them. All the webinars that we're doing last week, this week, and moving forward during this month while everyone's out of school, we're recording them and we're going to upload them to our YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, now's the perfect time. When we're done, just go to YouTube and put in the Learning Liaisons in the search box, and you can find it. So I'm going to be uploading hopefully later today, definitely not today. If not today, tomorrow, I'm going to upload this one. I just uploaded our reading K through 12 one we did last week. I have to upload our essay and our GK math webinar. All right. So the good thing is if you see GK math or essay or this one more than one time over the next couple of weeks, we're not going to do the same exact thing. We're going to switch up the questions. We're going to do our best to make it a little bit different, because I know some people want to come to multiple ones, but if it's the same thing, it's like, I could just watch the recording. So we're going to do our best to switch things up, but they are going to be going to our YouTube channel. So just search the Learning Liaisons. If you go to our website, there's a button on the top that says social and has all the links to our social media on there. We're going to be going for an hour and a half today. All right, so we just started. My goal is 90 minutes. So I'll be honest with you, I've never done a pro-ed version of my pro-ed full ed class as a webinar. So I kind of put together what I thought would work out in the next 90 minutes. So if you don't like it, don't hurt me, please. I'm doing my best for it to help you guys out in this time of need here. Next, no webinar. This is I should bold this one. No webinar will prepare you for this exam. This is a great first step. Just like we tell you in the GK webinars and the math webinars, now in the pro-ed, coming here is great. This is amazing. I'm so glad that you spend some time with me on a Monday morning at 11 a.m. during all the craziness going on. But this is to get the ball rolling. So the expectation is not that you have a good time here, learn a lot, great, and then I know the testing centers are closed, but just taking this as it is, moving forward and practice when I show you is not going to be enough. We need more. So I just want to get the ball rolling for you guys here. Next, 68%. That is the DOE percentage. That's the number of teachers, the percentage of teachers that pass this thing on the first attempt. So that's really low. The GK is 39%, and the subject area K through 6, the second big exam, it's about 58, 59%. So PED is a little higher, but it's still really, really, really low. So we need to make sure that we do things the right way. I'm gonna get you guys the ball rolling on that here today. For newcomers to the Learning Liaisons, thank you for coming here today. I'm sure you signed up from whoever shared this with you because it's free and you want to learn some stuff. That's great. So if you didn't know anything about us, we are not a study guide company. We're not like all those popular companies where we sell books. I am dead against books. That's one of the big reasons I learned to doing this 7 days a week. For the past 5.5 years, one of the main contributors to these high failure rates is books, because it prompts people to memorize material and memorize questions. And as many of you guys know who have taken this test and failed, that your real exam is not going to look anything like a study guide. So we need to focus on 2 important things: broad concepts, which I'm going to touch on some of them today, and test taking strategies. Well, I'm going to kind of model one of those here today for you. And last but not least, I'm going to add to, make sure you have a phone out in case you want to take some pictures. Also have something to write with, because we're about to have a quiz here today. Yes, I said quiz on a Monday morning. So get ready. I'm going to give you guys a quiz. So let's get rolling. So just to set the baseline here, everybody here wants to obviously pass the professional ed test, and yet you are dealing with these ridiculous tests by the state. that they're not indicative of your teaching skills. I like to have fun when I teach, but I'm also very transparent. I'm not one of those woo-ha, celebrate everything. I know some of you guys are laughing, some might be cursing at the screen right now, but they are ridiculous because whether you pass your professional ed test or not, or your GK or not, or your K through 6 or PK through 3, it is not indicative of how smart you are or how great of a teacher you are. All it is a performance. If you against the state, it's just a check mark, and you have to think of it that way. It makes teachers feel depressed, anxious, and questioning their careers. I get phone calls every day, right? Emails all the time. Oh my God, I need help. I'm about to change careers, or I'm going to lose my job. This is ridiculous. We don't want that to happen. It's just wrong that people feel like that. So since I've been doing this every day for the last 5.5 years, we've helped over 6,500 teachers pass their various exams. And there's a key part here because we care and support them, meaning that we're not selling you a book or selling you a recording and saying, good luck. We're going to have access. You're going to have access to us and me if you ask questions in our courses, things along those lines. And we try our best to hold your hand until you pass, literally. So my job is to make sure you either keep your job, or if you're a college student participating, be able to graduate your program of education and get you in the classroom because we need you, all right? So I understand your pain because I've been through it myself. I've been through all these exams, GK, subject area, professional ed. I'm a teacher myself, 10 years in public schools, 5 years middle school, 5 years high school, taught at the University of Central Florida since 2009 when I graduated there with my doctorate in curriculum instruction. I taught all the classes that go into this test other than the reading courses there. I've had 5 senior interns. I've supervised interns, elementary school as well. I taught courses for elementary ed as well for UCF. So I'm not saying that to just say, whoo, look at me. I just want you to know that there's some credibility coming from this end of the camera here, that I'm not someone just spewing nonsense. I've experienced everything that you have and that you will be moving forward. So here's what we need to do about it. Very simple. You need to follow along today, ask questions, soak it all in. Don't try writing everything down on the screen, right? You're gonna get the recording. I'm gonna upload this to YouTube, but we gotta practice what I show you here tonight. This is a short amount of time. I'm gonna do my best to give you as much as I can. So don't freak out. If I move a little fast or you have some questions, you can always email me questions afterwards or shoot me a text message or phone call. You got emails from me since you signed up, so you got my contact information. So just know that I'm here for you. The key is practice. So there's a reason why we need to do this. It's very simple, because if you don't, you won't be able to keep your job, and we don't want that to happen. Or if you're a college student, you won't be able to graduate, and obviously we don't want that to happen. So we want a good thing to happen. So if you want a good thing to happen, I want you to type a real capital YEP, yep, in the chat box on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and give me a yep in the chat box. Awesome. And if I didn't mention at the beginning, I think I did, but I'm gonna mention one more time before we jump in here. If you have a microphone or webcam and you want to turn it on, right, feel free to do that. You're fine with these webinars. Just make sure that you mute your microphone so we don't get any feedback. All right, so let's jump in. Pop quiz time. All right, so when I put this together, I'm just gonna have full disclosure. My goal was to give you 15 questions, right? But for some reason, in my craziness mind of doing a million things over the last couple of days, that I repeated one of the questions. So there's actually 14. So before I double checked and came online here, I realized, oh snap, there's actually a double question here. So there's gonna be 14 questions. So pardon me, I'm always good for one mistake. So I want you to do is take a piece of paper right now. Hopefully you have something to write with next to you, and I want you to number 1 through 14. All right, so 1 through 14. I'll give you guys a couple seconds to do that. We're gonna go through all these questions here. That's gonna be the basis of our webinar here. I thought what would be the best way to do this, because we can't really teach content because not enough time. So I'm gonna go through a bunch of questions. I'm gonna model some of the test taking strategies that I teach in my trainings at school districts and then are in our Pro Ed video course. Everybody ready? All right, so here's the thing. I'm gonna give you 1 minute per question. 1 minute, all right? So here's one thing I wanna mention too before we move on. If you have any questions, when we start doing the discussions, if you have any questions about what's on the screen, you can either say it through your microphone or put it in the chat box. But if something off topic, like not related to that question on the screen, some other piece of content, some other question you have about the exam, either hold it to the end, because I'm not gonna run off at 12:30. I'll keep the camera on, we'll talk. Or if you're on a desktop or laptop, you'll see a Q&A folder on the bottom of your screen. Some people already put questions in there. You could pop your question in there in case you think you're going to forget it by the time we wrap it up. All right, here we go. 60 seconds per question. I'm going to get my stopwatch here. Stopwatch. All right, here we go. Question number 1. All you do is write down the answer. Do not put it in the chat box. Do not put the answer in the chat box. Get 60 seconds per question. Do not put the answer in the chat box. Just do your best. Don't get frustrated. Don't Google answers either. Just go ahead and write it down. And I don't care if you get all of them wrong. That's why we're here, right? David, I said, don't put it in the chat box. You're good. Just messing with you. I won't boot you out the classroom. You do it again, I might boot you out. Just kidding. I wouldn't do that. My laptop's too far away to do that anyway. 10 seconds. No pressure. All right. Question number 2. Here we go. Question number 2. And if you run out of time, I'll try to give you the 10-second warning. If you run out of time, just pick your favorite letter at that point. And do not put down A or B, C, or go with one. I'm not there to walk around and see you. It's not a live session, so I'm going to trust you that you're just picking one answer. No choices here, no A or B. 10 seconds to go. All right, question number 3. Here we go. Question number 3, 60 seconds. For those who just joined us, we're doing a quick quiz, 14 questions. $60 seconds per question. Ten seconds, 10 seconds. All right, next up, number 4. 60 seconds. Remember, this real deal exam is 120 questions in 150 minutes, so it's not too much more than a minute per question here. Ten seconds, 10 seconds. All right, moving on, number 5. Pick your favorite letter. And once again, like I mentioned at the beginning, accidentally repeated one of the questions here, so there should only be 14 instead of 15. My apologies. Hopefully we can get through all of them to begin with, so we'll see what happens here. All right, 10 seconds. All right, halfway through, number 6, here we go. Ten seconds. All right, number 7, here we go. Ten seconds. No pressure. All right, number 8. Ten seconds. All right, number 9, 2 more to go. Who's got 100 so far? Anybody? Oh, we're all on deep thought. Maybe. All right, Heather, I'm going to hold you that one. All right, 5 seconds. All right, number 10. Oh, that's my mistake there. That's why I couldn't find the question. So you guys got lucky here. It's supposed to say something different for D, so you got 3 choices there. That's why I couldn't have found my duplicate question. Now I see. Five seconds. All right, number 11. Ten seconds. All right, number 12. Remember, we got 14 questions. I see some people using the raise the hand function. If you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat box so you can say it through your microphone. Well, Jamo, if you're practicing the strategies I taught you in the class, then you should be getting 100 on these. We'll see. All right, 10 seconds. Two more to go. All right, number 13. Ten seconds. 10 seconds. All right, number 14. I believe this is the last. Oop, last one. So if you got any of you guys that came in a little late, I know it sounds weird. It's 14. I accidentally had a repeat of 1 questions in here. I just caught it before we started. So there's going to be 14 questions instead of 15. So we didn't miss one here. Last question. Twenty seconds. 10 seconds. All right, time is up. So what I want you to do is we went through 14 questions. You should have a certain level of confidence on each question, whether, ooh, that was easy, I know I got it right, or maybe, or third one is, I had no clue what's going on, I just picked my favorite letter. So you should have a good understanding and level of competence for each question. So what I want you to do on the top of your paper is I want you to write how many you think you got right out of 14. Was it 7 out of 14, 11 out of 14, 14 out of 14, 5 out of 14? Go ahead and do that. No one else is going to see it, so be honest with yourself. You don't have to post it in the box. But I want you to take a second and put that on the top. 14 out of 14? Oh, we'll see. All right. So go ahead and put that on your piece of paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of those questions. You don't have to share it in the box if you don't want to, but write it on your paper. All right, so you're going to grade yourself as we go on. We're going to go through all of those 14 questions, no other questions other than that. And I'm going to do my best. I'm going to keep my eye on the clock here to see how quick we're going. Because one, I don't want to rush through the discussions of these questions, because what my goal is not only to discuss the question and some strategies, how to make the question really easy, but I also want to talk about some of the content as it relates to that question. So I don't want to rush. So for some reason, I'm looking at my clock, I'm going to run out of time. Then I'll give you the answers to the rest of the questions. All right, sound like a plan? So it's time to get all learn on. All right, so let's go on a journey here real quick. A lot of teachers feel like this, right? They fail this test numerous times, and I'm sure many of you guys either out there, who's failed this test before? Throw in the chat box if you failed, because we got a lot of teachers here today. If you failed before, let me know. Don't be shy. It's okay. You're not alone. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of teachers fail this multiple times because they just don't prepare the right way. All right. So a lot of teachers feel like this, right? There's a big frustration, especially with the professional ed test, right? Because a lot of teachers feel like this test is redonkulous. So you've got two main demographics, right? You got college students. Any college students here? Any college students joining us here? Right? So college students tend to do a little better on the professional ed than classroom teachers. I'll explain why, and this is really important. College students have to take this test, if you didn't know, for my classroom teachers, my alt-cert people out there joining us. College students do a little bit better because they have to take this test before they graduate. And the goal is that they've taken all their content courses. So they tend to do a little bit better, right? Not that good, but a little bit better than classroom teachers. Now, the problem with the classroom teachers, and this is where the big frustration is one, this test is not common sense. So anyone who tells you that, please smack them in the face. I don't advocate violence, but you know what I mean. Don't listen to them. It's not common sense, okay? And two, one of the biggest things, and because I do these presentations in school districts across the state every week, and the biggest complaint, and I've been through it myself as well, taking this test, is that, man, this test is so subjective. There'll be so many questions where 2, 3, even all 4 answers sound like something that could be possibly the correct answer. So you have to understand that every single question on this test, right, it's according to what the state of Florida sees as most effective. When I say that, AKA research-based, right? So for example, you might have a question that, you know, Mrs. Jones is teaching a lesson on X, Y, and Z. What's the most effective strategy to promote critical thinking skills? And you might see 2 answers or 3 answers that are some things that you maybe done in the classroom or been to a workshop or your administrator told you. And you might say, ooh, well, C's a good answer. I've done it and it works, but then you get it wrong, right? Because it's not what is research-based, what is the best possible thing to do in the classroom. That's the biggest frustration for you. And then those of you guys who have failed this test before, you could probably attest to that, where you see multiple answers that you think are correct on this test. So the bad news is the test is not subjective. It's not subjective to your experiences. You have to block everything out, right? I don't care if you taught 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years in the classroom. Forget everything that you've done, and you have to focus on what is research-based. I'm going to teach you some inside tricks and some strategies how to really get these questions right, even though you might not know exactly what they're asking you or what the concept or theory is. All right? So once again, I see people raising their hands. If you have questions, put them in the box if they're on topic. If not, we'll hang out at the end and answer those. So a couple of baseline things before we jump into these questions, all right? If you can't tell in the background, I have the picture painted for a reason. It says facts and myths. Ladies and gentlemen, this test has not changed a lick since 2013. I don't care what anyone has told you. The test has not changed. Now, the questions constantly change. So if you go in there and take it 1 month and go back the next month, you might see a handful of questions, but you're not going to say the same exact test. So the test has not changed. When it comes to study guides, if you have any questions about study guides, you can always email me or give me a call. There is no one guide that's better than any of them. I have them all. I've seen them all. I've tutored students, work with their study guides. They're all the same. Some might have a small amount of content, maybe more practice questions, but they're all the same. It's all about how you use your study guide. That is the key. And we don't really, if we have some time at the end, I'll kind of talk about that a little bit. But if you're not using your study guides the way I teach in my pro ed trainings and my video course, you're wasting your money, because nothing that you see in the guide is going to look anything like the exam. All right. There are places that they have same exact questions from the test. Please don't look for shortcuts. I've been doing this every day for 5.5 years. The worst thing you can do is go to places like Quizlet or other blogs or Facebook groups and look for people to post questions. One, a lot of questions that I've seen people share with me, one, they don't make sense. Two, they might not have they might not even have the right answer in them. And you got all these thousands of teachers studying all these cheated questions, because that's technically cheating, because you're not supposed to come out of the testing center and share questions, but they don't even remember all of them. And people are studying all this stuff because they're looking for shortcuts. Please don't. You can pass this test. You don't even have to know all the content to pass this test. I'm going to show you here shortly. All right. So just a quick example. And this is something I show in my pro ed sessions when I'm at school districts. I just picked this one out for a specific reason, right? I'm not going to sit there and read it to you, but the point is, when it comes to the professional ed test, I have helped thousands of people pass this test, and they don't know anything about the pedagogy. They don't know the meanings of all the concepts. They don't know all the theorists. You don't need to know all that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's not important to know the concepts and understand this stuff. Of course it is. But don't stress out and try to memorize everything. But you can see here that there is too much material, inconsistency in the question and the practice test, meaning that they don't look anything like the exams. You have to have strategies. I'm going to model some of them here for you here today, this morning. Don't be worried, because you've got this, all right? So the first thing you need to understand is that your test is a performance. So if we look up the word performance in the dictionary, it's like showcasing your talent, showcasing your ability, right? Like a musician or an athlete, or you as the teacher, okay? You as a teacher, you have to think of it this way. This is you, and sorry for the guys in the room, this is you, and this is state of Florida, okay? You have to think of it as a game, you against them, all right? There is nobody helping you. I'm not sitting there taking the test for you. Your friends and colleagues and administrators aren't there. You have to think of this as a game. You against the state, and you have to win. You don't want to get knocked out, all right? So you have to do things the right way to be successful. So whether it's your general knowledge test or even any of your subject area exams or your professional ed, it all comes down to three things: knowledge, skill, and attitude, okay? Here's what I mean by knowledge. Knowledge is not the concepts, the vocabulary words, the theorists. This is knowing about the test. I can't tell you all the teachers that I meet, whether they've never taken it or failed it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. If I'm sitting in front of a group of teachers that failed this test numerous times, and I ask the simple question, how many questions you need to get right to pass, right? Crickets, or they start guessing, right? That is stuff that is very important. That is knowing about the test, knowing the competencies, knowing the content that's going to be on the exam, right? Knowing the percent to pass, how many questions you need to pass. That's important stuff. That is very important. And people do not know that walking in. Your kids in the classroom, don't you think that they know what grade they need to get to pass the test? Of course they do. But 99% of teachers coming into this exam, or all the FTCEs, just being honest with you, don't know the answer to that question, okay? So when it comes to skills, so we have knowledge and skill. Skill is test-taking strategies. I'm going to model some of them here for you. Obviously, we don't have all day. I do a 4-hour session on this only, and that doesn't cover all the stuff. So I'm just going to hit some of the quick little strategies here. But you need to have proven test-taking strategies. The whole thing, like in college, reading the question, eliminating one you know is wrong, and going back and forth, that takes a lot of time. And there's going to be some easy questions on this test. There's going to be some average ones, and there's going to be some very difficult ones on this test. I'm not going to lie. But you can't let the hard ones stop you from getting the easy ones out of the way. So we need strategies on how to focus in our thought process. And we have to know how these questions are written. I'm gonna give you a quick little insight here today. So two of the main strategies that I teach in all of our FTCE courses are no swimming and no fishing. So we're gonna focus in a little bit on the no fishing here today. So we have knowledge, skill, attitude. How do you build up that confidence? How do you self-assess and practice? Are you memorizing study guides and taking pages of notes? Bad news, right? We have to target in on what we need to do. So for example, if you have a study guide, right? You don't start taking notes on page 1, you go straight to the practice test. You set your timer, you do your practice test, you see what questions you got wrong, and then you get a little spiral little notebook. And every time you get a question wrong, on page number 1, you're writing what competency that falls into. And on page number 2, you're gonna write down 3 things. Every time you get a question wrong, whether it's on a website, on a practice test, if you're in one of my courses, you write the concept down. So let's say you get a question wrong on discovery learning. You're gonna write down discovery learning. I'm just abbreviating for sake of time here. You're gonna put down the definition. You could Google it or look in your study guide, and you're gonna write 2 to 3 examples of what discovery looks like in the classroom. Because here's the key on this test, ladies and gentlemen, right? You can tell me the definition of 100 different vocabulary words. You could tell me who Jean Piaget is or Lev Vygotsky. You could tell me what direct instruction is or inquiry learning. You could tell me what differentiated instruction is. I don't care. I don't care if you could tell me the definition, because that's not going to help you pass. You have to be able to apply it to a scenario, because about 80 to 90% of these questions on this test are scenario based. Not going to ask you, what is an example of direct instruction? No, they're going to paint a picture with a scenario, right? And saying, Mrs. Jones wants to accomplish X, Y, and Z. What's the most effective way to do that in her classroom? They're not always going to come out and say that term. It's implied. So we're going to go over some examples here today. All right, so let's keep going. So here we go. Here's our quiz questions. So pardon me, I didn't put numbers on the screen, but you guys can follow along. We're going to go through those 14 questions. But here's one of the quick strategies here. I can't go into too much depth. If you guys are in my Pro Ed course, I go over this in a lot of detail in that course. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to get that at the end if you want for practice and to make sure you pass this thing. So real quick, the first thing that I teach is you don't look at the questions first. You have to look at the answers. So I'm going to model this because we've got a lot of teachers here. But if you have questions as we're rolling through, feel free to say them through your mic or put them in the chat box. But we're going to go through the process here. I'm going to read all 4 choices. So ask students to list all the planets they know. Ask students to put the planets in order from closest to furthest from the sun. Ask students to discuss why it's important or not to conduct space travels to planets. Ask students to bring in pictures of planets for strategies. So I'm going to model my strategy that I call no fishing. And no fishing consists of a mental checklist, STOW. And the mental checklist is pretty simple. S is similar answers. So I'm going to look for answer choices that start out with the exact same 3 words or more. If there are 2 answer choices that start out with the same 3 words or more, there's an 80% chance or better that one of those is right. All right. So they all start out with ask students to, but then I got to look further to the 4th word. Ask students to list, to put, to discuss. All right. So we don't have similar answers. A theme. Well, they all ask students to do something. All right. So we have listing planets they know, put them in order, why they're important, bring in pictures. There's no real themes there. They're all talking about planets, but we need some kind of distinguishing factor here. Outlier. Is there something on these answer choices that's something that students should never do or is a bad strategy? Well, listing, putting them in order, discussing, bringing in pictures, they all seem relevant to me. Now, here's the most important one on our professional ed test, okay? Our keywords and phrases. These are action words followed by the process. So what do I mean by that? My first one is ask. Ask what? Students to list. Ask what? To put planets in order. Ask students what? To discuss why they're important. Ask students what? To bring in pictures, right? So I have list, put, discuss, bring. So you, as a good test taker, especially on the professional ed, your wheels should be turning. Many of these questions, remember I mentioned at the beginning, this test is about understanding broad concepts and having good test taking strategy. Here's lesson number 1. I would say about 20 to 30% of these questions have concepts that transcend multiple competencies, like lesson planning and teaching are the two biggest ones. Those are the first four, all right? They all go according to, I'm sure you guys have heard the concept of Bloom's taxonomy, right? Knowledge, comprehension, analysis, application, synthesis, and evaluation, right? I know I said that fast. Say that 10 times fast, right? They don't come out and say Bloom's taxonomy. They rarely will, but you have to have an understanding of those levels and how they progress from low-level skills to high-level skills. And you're going to see those action words, right? Like listing, putting, discussing, and bringing. You have to think to yourself, all right, which one of those are highest level, right? So if I ask you guys a question, don't give me answers. Please don't put it in the box. If I ask you a question out of list, put, discuss, or bring, what do you think is the highest level word out of all those when it comes to a skill that kids have to do? Listing things, putting things in order, discussing, or bringing. Very good. That's all you need to know. That's it. And every single time you have a question, that highest level, if you see those action words like that, your highest level word is going to be your answer 100% of the time. I should say 99%. Because when it's not, it's one of those opposite questions, which we'll get to a little later on. Those questions like, which of the following was not, or which is least effective. So I know I'm giving you as much as I can. I'm talking real fast, just know you'll have the recording. I want to make sure I get through all these questions here, all right? So I've got ding, 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 discuss is my highest level. Let's look at the question, all right? You want to work on the divergent thinking skills of your students. Which of the following activities will be most effective in working on divergent thinking skills? Don't put the answers in the box, please. So our next step to this no fishing is I'm going to look for our keywords and phrases in the question. All right, our action word, our verb, process. Same thing we did on the W and that STOW. All right. So first action word, work. Work on what? Divergent thinking skills. Okay. That's all you need to know. Most effective is a given. They're all going to be most effective. Okay. So work on what? Divergent thinking skills. So here's the problem. If you don't know what divergent thinking is, you're going to see that word. You're going to see divergent and you're going to see convergent. You have to know what these are. But the thing is, if you don't, that's fine. Like we were kids, when we see a vocabulary word by itself, look at the root word. Diverge, converge. When you converge, you come on one thing. Like a pack of lions, or what do you call it? A pack of lions? I don't know what you call a group of lions, but I'm guessing right here. A pack of lions converge on an antelope, right? They all come together on one thing. Your professional ed test, contrary to what some people believe, is a convergent thinking test, meaning there's only one answer. You come together on one thing. Divergent, open-ended, all right? So your answer has to have something to do that's open-ended, more than one answer. Well, if we list things, well, that's not open-ended. You're just listing the facts, right? If we're putting planets in order, that's the same thing. You're listing them. There's no open-ended thinking. A pride, thank you. I'm all right to be wrong. I don't care. I'm a human being, right? So B is gone, right? So what's the answer? Either C or D. Right? It's that $1 million word here, discuss. Discuss is open-ended, okay? Open-ended. So remember, you're going to see a lot of words on this test that whether you study them or not, vocab words or concepts that, you know, oh my God, I don't know what that is. Like, I'm sure that some of you guys didn't know what divergent meant right away, and that's fine. Look at the root word. You don't have to sit there and memorize it. Diverge. When you diverge from something, it means go in different ways, right? If you converge, you come together on one thing. My biggest thing when I tutor people for the professional ed test, when I work with some people one-on-one, I always tell people, and these are my live trainings too, is that anytime you see a vocab word, look at the root word and take it out of the context of education. That's it. Take it out of the classroom. Don't always focus on the classroom, right? If you diverge from traffic, moving in different ways, right? Like I gave you the example of the lions converging. Take it out of the classroom and make things a lot easier. So the answer there is C. All right. Next question. Question number 2. Curriculum alignment, horizontal alignment, grade level accommodations, vertical alignment. Okay. So I see STOW. I know I'm moving fast, but I'm just kind of modeling some of the strategies here for you. These are concepts. So they start with the first letter. If the first letter is the same on two of these concepts, there's an 80% chance one of those is right. I don't see any of those. Theme. Well, they talk about alignment. Well, guess what? That means C is my outlier. This is how these questions are written. I don't have time to go into the whole logistics, but I talk about that. Some of you guys are in my Pro Ed course. I'll go into that in a lot of detail. So we have an outlier. Keywords here. Curriculum. We know what that is. That's the stuff that we teach. We know what the word alignment means, right? Like aligning the tires on your car, making sure they're all going in the same direction. Pretty easy. Horizontal. Think about horizontal, like the horizon, going left to right, right? Pretty simple stuff. Vertical, up and down. That's all you need to know. Some of you guys might be thinking, oh my God, I didn't know what the heck horizontal or vertical alignment is. You don't need to know. You don't need to know. Just focus in on the vocab words and the root word here. Trust me here. So we got outlier, went through our words and phrases, all right? So don't put the answers in the box. Do not, please. Ms. Pruitt is a 5th grade teacher at Midway Elementary. Next week is a teacher workday, and she's supposed to meet with fellow teachers of the 3rd and 4th grade. During this meeting, all of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade teachers work in sync to make certain that everyone's lessons build on each other so all students are primed and ready to move from the 3rd through the 5th grade. This process is known as what? All right, so keywords and phrases first. Action words, okay? Supposed to what? Meet with fellow teachers of the 3rd and 4th grade. During what? During this meeting, all the 3rd and 4th teachers work in sync. Make certain what? Every lessons build on each other, all right? So we got 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders work in sync, build on each other. That's all we need to know. So you have to take a step back and think for a second. We're talking about 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders building on information, all right? So obviously we're talking about curriculum, but we got to slow up here, right? What's one answer that we can cross off here? What's one answer you think we can cross off? Yeah, some of you guys are saying B. Remember, horizontal is left to right. 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader, you're going from one age group up, right? We're not going across. It doesn't say all 3rd graders. So it's either A or D at this point. So what do you guys think the answer is? So I know a lot of people are going to put A because they're thinking about curriculum. They're thinking about 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade here. But the answer here is D. And here's why it's D. Vertical alignment is going from one grade level up. So if you have kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd graders working together, curricular alignment. If the question said all 3rd graders or all 4th grade teachers, then we have curriculum alignment through that grade. Does that make sense? Just look at the root word and take it out. I can't stress that enough. Look at the root word, the main word here. Vertical means up and down. Look at the question, up and down, 3rd and 4th and 5th grade, right? So you don't have to necessarily memorize what these terms mean. Just think of those root words. Break it down into your own language, into outside the classroom. So the answer there is D, all right? Next, this is 3, right? You guys got to remind me because I didn't put numbers on the screen. Is quiz question 3? All right, so divide the class in ESOL and non-ESOL students and let the 2 groups do separate projects. Have a competition to see which student had the most creative way of meeting the lesson objective. Lecture one day and follow up with a short writing, a writing short answer quiz the next day. Allow students to discuss how to demonstrate their comprehension of lesson objectives. So, STOW. First 3 words are identical and 2 of these answer choices? No. Is there a theme here? All right, so divide the class ESOL and non, let the 2 groups, don't put answers down. Let the 2 groups do separate projects, have a competition, lecture one day, follow up a short answer, allow the students to discuss. Okay, let the groups, all right, so we have dividing the class, a competition, lecture one day and follow up with a writing short. Okay, so I don't have any themes here. So there's no 2, when I say theme, I mean 2 answers or 3 answers I can group together and give a title. Like if A and C talked about dividing up the class in 2 different ways, all right? Let's see here. Well, that's a good point. Good. That's why we got Sierra. Good. I like your eye there. So Sierra said we have two of them talking about objectives. I like that. We can go with that. That works. So what does that tell me? That tells me if the question has to do with objectives, then it has to be either B or D. If it doesn't talk about objectives in one way or another, we can cross those two out. Good eye. I like that. So we got a theme there. Outlier. Is there something here that probably doesn't belong or what a teacher shouldn't do? Not necessarily. I might be thinking B. B maybe is not good because we shouldn't have competitions, but it doesn't say competition with grades. It says creativity competition. So that would work in the classroom. If B said a competition with grades, then no bueno, I'd cross that off. Okay. All right. So we kind of need a little more information. So some of you guys are saying divide A, cross off A, divide the class, and ESOL and not ESOL, let the two groups do separate projects. So you guys are probably classroom teachers, right? And you're like, oh, we should never do that. So we'll go with that as an outlier. All right. Keywords and phrases. Competition. Competition to what? See who's the most creative way. Lecture what? One day and follow up with writing short answers. Allow what? Students to discuss. So we have a competition, most creative. Lecture, one day. Allow students to discuss. All right. So let's read the question. We crossed off A. Let's see if it holds up. Don't give me answers, please. We said objectives, objectives. Okay. So let's read the question and look for the keyword and phrase in the question. A teacher is about to conduct a science lesson for both native speakers of English and ESOL students who are about to study planets. Which of the following is the teacher's best approach to conducting the lesson? Don't give me answers yet. Conduct, first action word. Conduct what? A science lesson for both native English and ESOL, okay? Best approach, that's a given. So the only thing we need to focus on is we're conducting a lesson, and here's the $1 million phrase here, ESOL students. So your mind has to switch to effective and non-effective strategies when it comes to ESOL. So a main concept that goes across the board that I want you to remember, when you have any questions that talk about when you say ESOL in it, it's always good to work in groups. You never want to segment ESOL students, and now we definitely know A is crossed off, right? We don't want to give them any high-stress assignments or situations to freak them out. We don't want to send them home with stuff if they don't understand the language, right? So we have to do things that work together. So with that being said, we know B is crossed off because we're not going to have ESOL students competing because English is not their first language, right? So what's the better answer here, C or D? Go ahead and put those in the chat box. What do you think it is, C or D? Yes, because like I just said, it's about discussing, right? So at this point, I know a lot of you guys are thinking, why the heck is this guy covering the questions and reading the answers first, right? When I'm going backwards, and this is something I go over my Pro Ed course, when we go backwards and read the answers first, this helps us focus on what we're looking for. This is a proven strategy. I go in a lot more detail in my courses, but I'm giving you kind of brief glimpse in here today. It helps you focus in your thought process, so when you get to the question, it's a lot easier. This is how these questions are written. They have similar answers, outliers, themes, all this kind of stuff, all right? You can teach this to your kids as well. So let's go on to the next one. Criterion reference assessment, norm reference assessment, performance-based assessment, formative assessment. STOW. Similar answers, right? Vocabulary words, similar answers is the first letter of each vocabulary word. Are they the same? 80% chance or better one of those is right. No, they're all different. Is there a theme? Don't sit there and say they're all assessment, right? If one of them didn't say assessment, then we'd have a theme here, okay? So we don't have a theme here. There are no outliers because they're all assessments. Now, the keywords and phrases. Now, if I asked everybody right now, I'm not going to do this, but if I was in front of you and said, all right, guys, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. I want you to define each of these on a piece of paper for you. Who thinks they can do that? Be honest. If I was in front of you and said, define all of these things, who thinks that they can do that? Be honest. Some of you guys might know maybe 3 of them, maybe a couple of you guys might know all of them or think you do. Maybe some of you guys don't know any of them. That's fine. We don't have to know them all. That's the key. But I'm going to give you a quick lesson on all of these. But look at the root word. I'm going to show you how easy this is. Look at the root word. Criterion. The word criteria is in there. What's criteria? Like your principal observes you and grades you on a certain set of criteria. Skills. right? Criteria, that by definition, standards in the classroom, good, but just certain set of criteria, certain items. Norm, right? What's norm mean? The normal, right? When we compare things, norm, 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 comparing to the norm. Performance, showcasing your ability on something specific, right? Like a singer on the stage, like you teaching a lesson in the classroom. You're performing something specific. Formative. I'm going to go over the textbook's definitions here in a little bit, but form, the root word, what forms your instruction, forms the test, shapes it, right? We're going to go over just think about these words. We'll go over the textbook definitions, right? So shaping, forming, performing something, like showcasing a certain skill on something, norm, okay, to compare, and criteria, set of skills. That's all we need to know. Let's look at the question here. Don't give me answers. Mr. Smith is a 10th grade U.S. history teacher. He would like to know how his students scored on the end of course exam as compared to other 10th grade U.S. history students across the state. What type of assessment would give the teacher this information? Don't put the answers. Keywords and phrases. Action word, okay? Would like to know what? How his students scored on the end of course exams. Compared, action word. Compared to what? Other 10th grade U.S. history students. That's it. That's all you need to know, that they like to know how a student scored, but the $1 million word is compared, right? So with that being said, we kind of gave the answer away before, compare. So with that being said, what answer, give me a letter I should cross off. Don't put answers in there, because then we're going to get confused on what you're trying to say. So what's one letter we should cross off? Right? We're definitely going to cross off D, right? We're going to talk about what all these words are here in a second. Formative, all right? So formative assessment, I could do it right. Well, I'll hold off on that discussion. So formative is during the class. We'll talk a little more detail here in a second. That one's crossed off, all right? So I'm also going to cross off criterion reference assessment. And that's probably an answer that a lot of, be honest, who put that as their answer on their quiz? Who put A as an answer? I'm sure a lot of you guys did on there, all right? Because you saw end of course exam, right? We got to look at those keywords and phrases in the question. Compared, right? So your answer here, what do you guys think the answer is? Should be easy now. We went through what those root words mean. So the answer here is B. Anytime you see a question on this test that use the word compare, you can stop right there. You don't have to read the whole scenario. Once you see the word compare, done. The answer is always norm reference. That's it, because that's by definition, right? Norm reference assessment, to see how your kids do or a specific kid compared to everybody else. But a lot of people get this wrong because all they see is end of course exam, right? Or they'll see something that's a standardized test and they'll go, oh my God, that's criterion reference. You're right, it is, but that's not what the question's asking. It's saying that they want to compare students. That's why we need to practice effective strategies here. This is a simple question if we work backwards. That's the key here. Performance-based can be similar to criterion, but it's how they're performing on a specific task, okay? If you're doing like an essay or some kind of creative project, showcasing their skill on their level on a specific skill, okay? So let's take this second to talk a little bit about assessments here, right? Because this is very important. This is a lot of people when they send me their score report and I work with them one-on-one, this is typically the competency comp 4 that people bomb. Because a lot of people say, I know what the assessments are, but they really don't. And they don't know what they look like in a scenario like this. So I'm gonna go over the 3 major umbrella terms here real quick. We have diagnostic, right? We have formative, and we have summative. This is what I call like the 3 major umbrellas, and other ones fall underneath those, all right? So let's start with summative because that's the easiest one. Keyword, sum, at the end. These are your chapter tests, your end of course exams, FSA, right? Summary, think of sum in math, adding them all up, the sum at the end. So any kind of question, any scenario that talks about at the end of something, it's summative, all right? So that's the end. Next, let's go to the beginning. This is where a lot of people mess up. They think they know diagnostic, but they miss an important part of it. Diagnostic is at the beginning. So here's the key part. Here's the two parts of a diagnostic assessment. It has to have both of these parts to be true. A lot of people say diagnostic is at the beginning. You're right, it is. Diagnostic assessment is something that's given at the beginning. However, here's the part that a lot of people miss. At the beginning, and it tells the teacher, the educator, what skills they're deficient at. I'm going to say that again. It's something that's given at the beginning to see what skills the student is deficient at. Like if we have elementary school teachers here, right? Any of those diagnostic reading assessments, for example, that you give your kids at the beginning of the school year or at the beginning of a week or a lesson, it tells you what skills they need to work on so you can differentiate the instruction. That's another key word for this test. All right. So it's at the beginning, but to see what skills they're deficient at. That's the key part, to see the skills. It's not just anything given at the beginning. Like you can't say a pre-test is a diagnostic assessment. Not true. Now, if you use the pre-test to see what skills you need to work on, then it's a diagnostic, right? Just like you, good example, Graziel, just like if you are sick, you go to the doctor. What do? Run tests to diagnose the problem. When they diagnose the problem, what do? To prescribe medicine to make you feel better. Your car has a red light, check engine. You go to the mechanic, they hook it up to the machine, see what the problem is, what we need to do to fix it. Same thing in the classroom, like I keep telling you, right? Take it out of the classroom. Diagnostic. Now you could put that scenario to the classroom. Diagnose. Kids got a problem. See what the problem is. How do we fix it? All right. So that's at the beginning. Formative is during. Formative assessment can be a million different things. Anything that your teacher is doing, here's the key words here. During class, during. It's quick, and it tells if they get it. That's the easiest way to remember it. So it's during class, you do it quickly to see if the kids are understanding the lesson, getting the objectives, anything from asking student questions, doing group work, cooperative learning, had the kids come up to the board, anything that a teacher does in class on the fly to see if kids are getting the lesson. And if they're not getting it and people are confused, then we go back and give additional examples or we reteach the concept. That's the key, okay? So diagnostic, beginning, formative, during, summative, end. The other two I want to point out here also, we talked about norm. Norm is comparing, but here are the two that people get messed up also. Formal and informal assessment. All right? Formal, not to be confused with formative. These are two different things. Think of it outside the classroom once again. If I say, hey guys, I'm having a formal party at my house next week and you're all invited, what does that mean? Formal, that means dress up, right? Suits and tuxedos for guys, dresses for girls. Think about in the classroom now. A formal assessment, something standardized. End of course exam, chapter exam, FSA, all those things, something standardized assessment, right? Next. Informal. Once again, I'm having an informal get-together at my house. You're invited. What does that mean? Shorts and sneakers, right? Relaxed. You don't have to get dressed up. What does that look like in the classroom? That could be a lot of examples that might fit into formative, right? Things that you might do on the fly. It could be a quiz you give to your kids, a pop quiz, anything, asking questions. So some of the examples can transcend to formative assessment, but they're two different definitions, okay? And last but not least, like we already talked about before, summative, end of course exams, all that kind of good stuff. Make a little more sense there? I know it's like a crash course in assessment, but if you know that bulk of those five and more importantly what they look like in the classroom, you're good. All right, next question. Talking a little too much, I got to pick up the speed a little bit. All right, let the teacher know that he or she should keep their opinions private. Mind your business and pretend they did nothing wrong. Get up and leave the lounge immediately so you're not involved in the conversation. Let your principal know. So I'm curious to see, oh, we didn't get the answer. Oops, sorry. So the arrow, I circled it, norm reference, compared. Sorry about that. All right, next question. Am I on number 5 now? It's my fault I didn't put the numbers on the screen. That's you guys have to, we got hundreds of teachers here. You guys can keep me on track with the numbers. This is number 5? All right. Let the teacher know he or she should keep their opinions private, mind your business and pretend they did nothing wrong. Get up and leave the lounge immediately so you're not involved in the conversation. Immediately let your principal know. All right, so let's see here. Similar answers. 2 answers that start out with the same 3 words or more? No. Is there a theme here? Let's see if I can group 2 or 3 of these answers together and give it a title. Keeping opinions private, mind your business, get up and leave, okay, so let them know, mind your business, so talking. Okay, so in my mind, as a good test taker, analyzing these questions, right? I'm gonna look at A and D, and I'm gonna give that the title of telling somebody, right? So tell me if I'm wrong. Look at that too, telling somebody. So letting the teacher know, telling somebody, immediately telling your principal, telling somebody, all right? B and C, don't talk about saying anything, right? Because they're saying mind your business and get up and leave. So what does that mean? That means when I get to the question, if you feel like it's something that you have to say something to someone, well, guess what? B and C are crossed off immediately. All right, vice versa. If it's a question or a scenario where you don't say anything, then you look at B and C. All right, so we got to keep that in mind. So theme, outlier. Some of the, is any of this, they'll look at, I'm like, I don't care what the question is something a teacher should never do. I need some more information, right? I can't just see, I don't know, I like that word wonky. William said wonky, right? So maybe in real life, outside the classroom, you mind your business. I don't know. I need some more information. When it comes to outliers, every question is not going to have an outlier. On this test, an outlier typically is something that teachers should never do. That's usually how it works. Or it's one of those that we exemplified before where 3 of them talk about certain skill and the 4th one is something totally different. All right, so don't give me answers yet. Keywords and phrases. Let what? The teacher know. Mind what? Your business. Pretend what? They did nothing wrong. Get up and leave what? The lounge immediately. Immediately what? Tell your principal. Pretty straightforward question. Let's read the question here. All right, don't give me answers. You are sitting in the faculty lounge during your planning period. One of your fellow grade level teachers makes an offensive political comment about the current president. What should you do? So don't give me answers. Keywords, action words, sitting what? In the faculty lounge during what? Planning period. That should set off some bells and whistles right there. Makes what? An offensive political comment. So here we go. Basically, it's asking you what should a teacher do or not do here. So do you think that this is a situation where the teacher should say something? Now, I'm not saying A or D, right? But remember, we gave the theme. Is it something that they should say? If you believe that it's not something that you should say anything with, that means A and D would be crossed off immediately. However, if you feel like this is a question that a teacher needs to say something to someone, then B and C are crossed off. So I'm going to educate you real quick here. This is a scenario where your job as a teacher is to say something. Now, I didn't say which answer it is yet. So that means that B and C are gone. And I'm sure many of you guys pick C as your answer. Be honest, who put C as their answer? Right? A lot of people would do that, right? But I'm telling you, this is something. Now, obviously, a lot of you guys had the right concept where not being confrontational. So with that being said, A is wrong. So here's the answer. Here's the answer is D. Here's why. Regardless of what school, did anyone get that right? I expect a lot of people to get that wrong. This is something that you're going to educate you right now, right? On your evaluation, a lot of people don't realize this. Whatever evaluation system your school district uses, part of the evaluation is your ability to be a good communicator and work as a team, right? Part of that, believe it or not, is if you see something wrong or something going on, you're supposed to let your administrator know, whether it's your principal or your assistant principal, right? I know a lot of people don't realize that. So if you're a teacher and you know something is wrong or someone's doing something they're not supposed to, like in this case, the political comment, you're supposed to let your principal know. That's how things are supposed to go. Now, I'm not saying everyone does that, but you're supposed to do that in private, and then they fix the situation. But obviously, you don't confront the teacher. but now you know. So the answer there is D. All right, whether you agree with it or not, see something, say something. Well, that's a good way to remember it, but I necessarily wouldn't tie the two together though. All right. They're not going to know that you said something. That's just your job as an educator to create a safe environment. That's part of it. That's on your evaluation. All right. All right, next one. I'm going to pick up the speed a little bit here. Anecdotal notes, diagnostic assessment, formative assessment, formal assessment. Now that I went over all those different types of assessments, this question should be really easy. So STOW, similar answers. Okay, well, these are terms. So I'm going to look at the first letter of these two vocabulary words. That's my similar answer. That means there's 80% chance or better that one of those right? I go over this in my courses. So similar answers, theme. Is there a theme? Yeah. 3 of them talk about assessment. Guess what? A is never going to be the answer. That's an outlier. Words, we already went over these before. Diagnostic, to diagnose at the beginning, so what they're doing bad at. Formative, form your instruction during class. And formal is the type of assessment that is high stakes or some kind of standardized exam. All right, so let's look at the question. Don't give me answers yet. Which of the following assessment types allows teachers to get quick on-the-fly measurements on whether students are comprehending the lesson objectives? Key words here. Allows teachers to get quick on the fly. That's all you need to know. Plus the word says assessment, so that definitely means A is wrong. So on the fly. So guess what? Diagnostic we said is at the beginning. So what's the answer here then? Everyone should get this right now. We went over it a couple of minutes ago. Formative, to form your instruction during, quick, during the lesson to see if the kids get it. Awesome. Next question. I don't know what question number it is, but we're going in order. Ask students to develop questions for the teacher to answer. Give a short quiz to check student comprehension. Involve students in the summary or review. Remind students they must answer questions the next day. Similar answers. I don't have any. Is there a theme? Okay, so we're on number 7. Thank you. There a theme. All right, well, let's look here. Can I group 2 or 3 these together and give it a title? I'm talking about questions. All right, so I'm going to group these 2 together, and I'm going to give it the title questions. So if the question actually talks about questions, then the answer has to be A or D. If it's not talking about questions, then we'll look closely at B and C. All right, so that's the way that the process works here. Outliers, anything here that a teacher should not do? I need more information for that. I can't make a call yet. Keywords and phrases. Ask what? Students to develop questions. Give what? Short quiz. Check what? Comprehension. Involve what? Students in the review. Remind students what? They must answer questions the next day. So A and D talk about questions. I got to focus on those if the question talks about questions. So a teacher usually conducts a review of the previous day's lessons before a new lesson. However, students are often unable to respond correctly to the question. What is the most effective teaching strategy to employ at the end of the lesson? So don't give me answers. Conducts what? A review of the previous day's lesson. Before what? Beginning a new lesson. Unable what? To respond correctly. So we have to ask ourselves a very simple question, right? These kids don't know what's going on. They don't understand. They don't know any answers to the question. They don't understand the material. So they're asking you, what do we do at the end of the lesson if that's the case? So basic thought process. If they don't understand what's going on, are we going to ask them to make questions for the teachers to answer? No, because they don't know what's going on. So with that philosophy, my 2 answer choices to talk about asking questions, they're crossed off. So the answer's got to be either B or C. So what do you guys think the answer is? So a couple people put B. Remember, if they don't know what's going on, hey guys, I know you don't understand the material, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you a short quiz anyway. No, you're setting them up for failure, right? That same philosophy. You don't give them a quiz if they don't know the material. So the answer here is C, right? Here's a side note. This transcends many questions on this test. Here's the process of an effective educator in the classroom. This is what your administrators review you on. At the beginning of the class, Every class period, you're supposed to review what you did the day before. Next step is you tell them what they're going to learn today. Third step is you teach them the lesson of the day. And fourth step is you review what you just did that day. That is the levels of the strategy of an effective educator. 1, review yesterday's lesson. 2, introduce them to what they're going to learn today. 3, teach the lesson. 4, review everything. So always, and I don't care what the question says on this test, at the end of any lesson, any scenario that talks about the end of a lesson, it's always going to be doing some kind of review. All right, so answer there is C. Next one, First Amendment, Consent Decree, FERPA, Equal Access of 1984. So here we go. If you don't know what some of these things are, then you're like, right? So let's take our best shot here. Similar answers, there are none. Themes, amendment, laws, there are no themes here. We don't know what's going on. Maybe you don't even know what some of these things are, right? So there's not much we can do here. We can look at the words and go, amendment, well, we know the amendments, right? Consent decree. What's a decree mean? What's the definition decree? Just the word by itself, decree. Does anyone ever seen that vocabulary word? Yeah, like a law. They decree something, they state something, right? So we know what that is. So that in our head, that would be law, right? If you didn't know that, then that's fine. FERPA. Well, if you don't know what that stands for, we'll go over what it stands for in a second. And we have another act, so another law, right? So at a minimum, we know there's 2 definite laws here. We've got an amendment, and we got something here that maybe some people don't know. So not much we can do here unless you know what all these things are. So let's look at the question. Don't give me answers. Mrs. Kennedy is a 7th grade teacher. In addition to her teaching assignment, she's been given the role of club sponsorships. She approves, denies outside organizations' usage of the school's auditorium for outside school events. Mrs. Kennedy approves a meeting of the student-led Bible group, but denied access to a student-led Jewish group. The teacher has this teacher has disregarded which of the following regulations, all right? So, action words. In addition to what? Her teaching assignment. Given what? Role of club. We have to go through the process here, right? Don't give me answers yet. Approves and denies what? Outside organizations usage. Approves what? A meeting of a student-led Bible group. Denies what? Access to a student-led Jewish group. So basically, in a nutshell, letting one group do something, but not letting another group. So all we have to do, even if we don't know what all these things are, we should know what some of these are, like the First Amendment. What does that have to do with? When you have situations like this, where either you know these terms or not, go with what you know and process of elimination. So what's the First Amendment? Yeah, free speech. Does it have anything to do with free speech? No, there's nothing to do with free speech, right? So we know what that is. We can cross that off. Now, let's pretend we don't know what any of these things are, right? Does anybody know what consent decree has to do with? What group of students does a consent decree have to do with? Yep, very good. English language learners. This is the state mandate that says that they get the same rights and responsibilities as a regular education student. Also, it gives the guidelines on how you test for ESOL students. So this has nothing to do with ESOL, right? So what's the answer here? D. FERPA, Family Education Rights and Protection Act. Family Education Rights and Protection Act. All right, you have to know that for the test. For FERPA. It's not federal, it's family. Family Education Rights and Protection Act. So the answer here is D. All right, next one. I know moving fast, but look at that. Time's already flying by. We might go over a little bit, so you have to go because it's something else. That's fine. You'll get access to the recording. But I'm going to try my best to go through as much as I can here. So classroom observations, student questioning, diagnostic quiz, cooperative learning activities. All right, similar answers. They start off with the same words here. Well, these aren't really definitions. These are actions, so we got nothing there. A theme. Well, I do notice a theme here. If I told you A, B, and D are a theme, this is question number 9. Good. If I told you A, B, and D are a theme in my head, what's the title you would give to that? These are stuff that you do in class, right? Could be interaction, formative. Don't want to say assessments because they're all assessments, right? Want to be a little more specific. So I like formative, something during class, right? Activities, anything like that. So with that being said, C is a quiz. It literally says quiz. The other ones aren't quizzes. They're just observations or activities you do during class. All right. So we got a theme. We got an outlier. Action words. These are easy. We know what observe is. We know cooperative learning activities, right? Those are heterogeneous groups, small groups of students work together towards a common goal. So let's take a look at the question here. Which of the following classroom activities is not an example of an informal assessment? So here's one of those questions that I call opposite question, right? So I'm gonna give you a quick little tip here. This is probably maybe 1 out of every 8 to 10 questions. You'll see this is like the same as the which is the least effective, or which of the following doesn't belong, or which in this case is not an example. If you're working backwards and you see a definite outlier like this, guess what? When you get to the question, it's one of those opposite questions. Your answer automatically is the outlier. Think of it logistically, right? Think of that. You signify an outlier before you get to the question, one that doesn't belong with the rest of them. You get to the question, and all of a sudden it's which of the following is not or least effective. Your answer automatically is the outlier. Think about that for a second. Logically, that just makes sense. But let's take a look at this. All I want you to do if you want to double check yourself is, it says not an example of informal. So all I want you to do is cross up everything that is an example of informal. This is not a standardized. This is something you do during class. Possibly can be same thing as a formative assessment, right? But they're not standardized. So is classroom observations, watching your students, standardized? No. Is asking your question, asking your student questions, standardized? No. Cooperative learning? No. So there it is, your outlier. So the answer there is C. You guys see the logic there? Does that make sense? Right? I know we're moving fast. Next one. Adopted textbook by school districts, state and district goals and standards. Teachers, profession. This is the one where I messed up and copied the same answer choice there. So similar answers, no. Themes, goals, textbook. All right, well, I got 2 answers that have goals in them. If we talk about textbooks, then the answer's got to be A. If we're talking about goals, right, answer's got to be B or C. Outlier, we have none. Words and phrases, these are easy. Adopted textbook, goals and standards, that's pretty simple. Let's go to the question here. A teacher is working on developing lesson plans. Which of the following should be used as a preliminary guideline in planning the content and activities of these lesson plans? Developing what? Which of the following should be used what as a primary guideline? So they're asking you the question, when you make lesson plans, what's the most important thing that you need to do first to make your content and activities, right? What's the first thing? Well, is it to work on your professional goals? No, that's you. That's you going to school, you going to workshops. So what's the answer here? Answer here, every kind of answer. This is lesson planning competency, right? But this could be a teaching competency question too. It's all about how they phrase it, right? If they say something, Mrs. Jones is a 5th grade teacher and she's teaching a lesson on, I don't know, adding fractions, you know? What's the first thing she needs to align her lesson with in order to deliver the most appropriate instruction? Same thing, just phrase a different way for a teaching type question, all right? So, moving on. Next one, pre-production, speech emergence, intermediate fluency, advanced fluency, STOW. Similar answers, we don't have any. Themes, 2 of these talk about fluency, so I might keep an eye on that. If the question talks about fluency, it's got to be either one of those 2. If it's not, we'll probably cross those off. Outlier, maybe we don't even know what these words are, right? So we can't really tell if there's an outlier. Let's look at these words mean. This will help us out. Pre-production, right? Before. Pre means before. Speech emergent. What does emergence mean? Beginning, right? Emergent, like emergent literacy, beginning. Intermediate, not beginning, not advanced, right? Intermediate. Advanced obviously is really good at something. So we have before, the beginning, in the middle, or advanced. That's all we need to know right there, ladies and gentlemen. Just watch. There are 5 stages of language acquisition when discussing English language learners. What is the initial stage of language acquisition? So discussing what? ELL. So your mind automatically should switch when you see ELL. Initial stage of what? Language acquisition. Now here's the problem. Now let's be honest here. Let's talk honest, okay? A lot of people might not know the stage. You guys are already putting answers down. We don't know what the stages of language acquisition are. And teachers will stare at this question for 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes with the sweat bead dripping down their forehead, their temples going, oh my God, I'm going to fail this thing. You don't have to, obviously it's helpful if you know the stages, but you don't. You don't need to know the stages. All you need to know is this key word right here, initial. So guess what? Immediately, these two are gone because initial is at the beginning. And intermediate's not the beginning. Advanced is not the beginning. So at least you got a 50-50 shot here, A and B. Pre is before. Emergent means the beginning. So what's earlier? Before or the beginning? So what's the answer here? Answer here is A, right? I do advise you to go look up and Google the stage of a language acquisition. It's good to know, but you don't need it to know the answers. I keep telling you from the beginning. You don't need to know all of the concepts to get the answers right. I'm not saying it's not important to know this stuff. Don't get it twisted. But you don't need to memorize everything to pass this test. All right, next one. So what I'm going to do real quick is we're almost at the time here. So is there anybody here that will stay after as I keep going through this? Right, I'm going to keep going. So what I'm going to do here real quick, because I know a lot of people have things scheduled. They might have to work with their kids, maybe at the school. I'm going to stop real fast right here. I'm going to skip to the end and we're going to come back because I know some people are going to leave. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to skip to the end real fast. I'm going to come back. And I know some people, I respect their time. I'm not going to leave. So I'm going to throw this on the screen. So I'm just going to go over this at the end. I'll talk about everybody who needs help. But I know a lot of people are going to time off because we're hitting the time I said it's going to be over. So if you guys need help with this test or any of the other exams, what we did last week, if you're on our email list, due to the situation going on in the world and the schools are closed, a lot of people are emailing me asking for deals on courses because they're at home and they have extra time to get ahead of the prep. I know they're waiving exam fees. Yes, the exam centers are closed. I'm going to go back. I'm going to give you all the answers, right? I'm not going to wrap it up right now. So if you're not on my email list, I sent out this code last week. All the way through this whole month, probably later than that, but I have it set till April 1st. Anything on our website, GK, subject area exams, even our new reading discounts, reading course, the new K through 12 reading course that's launching tomorrow. And anything on our website, if you use that code this whole month, it's going to save 50%. So stay at home, anything, okay? Unfortunately, people bought stuff earlier. I can't go back and do that. And it's a good question, William, but I can't because all the authors and stuff of these courses get paid based on the sale, so I can't go back and do that. If you just bought something within the last day, then maybe I could work something out with you. But I do apologize, I can't do that. That's a good question, though. But unfortunately, here is the code that's going to work the rest of the month. All right, so I do apologize for that. Even if you bought it, it's still a great deal. I'm just trying to help people out. Maybe there's another test you need. So if you want to take a picture of that screen, if you have to time off and leave, you can do that anytime during this month. That code will work on anything on our website. All right, and I'm going to email that to you guys too later on today for all the people that signed up. So let's go back to those questions there. Let me find which one I was on. We did that. We did that. We did that. Is this the one we were on? I don't know. I didn't put the numbers on this. My bad. Is this the question we went over this one? Yes, that was the opposite question. We did that one. We just did that one. All right, here we go. All right, I'm on the right number here. Number 12. We good? All right, perfect. So let's roll. Explain to the mother that gifted program was well-defined criteria and goals and that she is setting the child up for failure. Explain to the mother that the law of privacy protects confidentiality of student records. Allow the mother to see the scores to satisfy her that the child's score does not meet the gifted program criteria. Obviously, we're talking about a gifted student here. Allow the child to be, allow the child to be allowed in the program on a trial basis. So similar answers. Explain to the mother. Explain to the mother. 1, 2, 3. That. All right, so here we go. Explain to the mother that. Explain to the mother that. That's a similar answer. That means at 80% chance or better, one of those is going to be right. First 3 words or more are identical. So some of you guys might be saying, well, they all talk about allowing the mother too. Isn't that the same? No. So literally same exact words, identical words. So we have similar answers. Theme. Well, let's take a look here. Gifted program. Gifted program. We're talking about programs. I don't really see any themes that jump out there. Outlier is something that teachers should never do. No, I need some more information here, okay? And keywords and phrases. Action words, explain what to the mother. That the program has well-defined criteria. Explain to the mother what the law of privacy protects confidentiality. Allow the mother to see what the score is to satisfy her. Be allowed what in the program on a trial basis. So pretty straightforward there. The big ticket item here, A and B are similar answers. So 80% chance or better that one of those is going to be right. So let's look at the question here. Don't give me answers yet. Ms. Lucas is a 4th grade teacher at Midway Elementary. The mother of one of her students insists that her child is gifted. Who hasn't done that before? And should be placed in a gifted program at school. When the request was denied, the mother asked the teacher for the IQ scores of the other children in the gifted class so she can compare her child's score with others. What procedure should the teacher follow? Okay, so action words. Insist what? That a child is gifted and should be placed in the gifted program. Request was denied. What? The mother asked the teacher for the IQ scores of other students so she can compare them. So basically, in a nutshell, we don't allow your kid in the gifted program. I want to see everyone else's scores. That's a big red flag right there, right? So what's a letter we should cross off? Yes, William, it is. I've been down that road too. What should we cross off? Right? Some people saying A, some people saying C. Let's go to C. A lot of mothers see the scores as that. Well, it's not really helping anything. They're going to know the scores because the parent's going to get the scores. That's not what the question's saying. They're saying they want to see everyone else's scores. So that one's going to be gone, right? If their score doesn't qualify them, we don't let them in on a trial basis because that's setting them up for failure. So look at that. It's back to our similar answers. So what's the answer? Yep. A is kind of along the same lines as D in one way or another. You're setting them up for failure. If their scores don't show they can do it, then don't put them in the program, right? So side note, any question that talks about privacy of information, your answer is always going to have to do with confidentiality of records. Always. Or it might have the FERPA in there. Family Education Rights and Protection Act. That's a protection from personal identifiable information. So it's all about the safety of the kid, but privacy, okay? So you can't show other people's scores or personal information. All right, next question. The objective should include the items that will be on the end of the unit test. The objective should be written in phrases rather than complete sentences. The objective should specify every student behavior that is required for a unit of instruction. The objective should include the conditions on which they are demonstrated. Similar answers. Don't tell me that they all start with the objective should, right? If we had 2 of them that start out the objective should, then we'd have similar answers. But if we keep reading here, the objective should include. The objective should include. 80% chance or better, one of those is right. Similar answers. Theme. Is there a common thread between 2 or 3 of these answers that we can give a kind of a title to? Well, they all talk about objectives, so that's irrelevant. If 3 of them talked about objectives and 1 of them didn't, then we'd have something. No, I don't see any themes. Do I see an outlier? Something that just doesn't belong. Well, I would cross off B as something because it's literally just saying something should be written in phrases rather than sentences. That makes no sense. You have to write your objectives out, complete sentence. So that's gone, okay? So we crossed off one, we got similar answers, keywords and phrases. Action word, include what? Items at the end of the unit test. Written what? Well, we crossed that one off. Specify what? Every student behavior that's required. Include what? Conditions on which they are demonstrated. All right, so let's move on here. We crossed off B. Don't give me answers yet. Mrs. Jones is a 7th grade language arts teacher, and she is working on planning her unit or upcoming unit objectives. Which of the following is the most important criteria to be considered when creating our short-range objectives for the next unit? Action words. Working on what? Planning her upcoming unit objectives. Considered what? Or excuse me, creating what? Her short-range objectives for the next unit. So we have working on planning her upcoming unit objectives, and she's creating short-range objectives for her next unit. So give me one other letter we should cross off. Yeah, I would agree. Cross off C, because we're not talking about behavior here. All right. So C is going to be crossed off. So that leaves us A or D. What's the answer? I see mostly A's and a couple D's. So the answer here is A. And let's talk about this one, because I expected a lot of people to get this wrong. It's a good teachable moment, because once again, as you can tell, try my best in a short amount of time to show you how some of these concepts transcend multiple questions. So we have to understand the underlying factors here. Let's look at the wrong answer, D. All right. What does conditions mean? That means the actions that they're doing in the classroom, like under what conditions? Group work, individual work, testing, whatever. How are they doing it? How a project, an essay, what are they doing in the classroom? The conditions, right? But here's the thing that trips up people. Planning our upcoming unit objectives. And here a lot of people focus on short range. And they think short range, well, that's during that class, so I have to talk about what they're doing in class, which is a very viable rationalization. I get that. However, she's planning her unit objectives. Side note, any question on this test, whether it's a planning question or a teaching question, okay? You're always planning for the end, whether it's the end of the unit, the end of the chapter, the end of the school year, it's always planning for the end. So that's your side note there. So the answer here is going to be A. Even though it says short range objectives, think about your units. If you're a classroom teacher, think about the units you teach, right? You do short range objectives, the things that you're gonna do with that immediate day, maybe the next couple of days, but you plan the whole lesson. So everything you do during each day of the unit, what's the goal of that? To prepare them for what? The end. So you always have to keep that in mind on this. Says everything is for the end. All right. So A. Next one. Students sharing a similar cultural experience. Students from alike cultures hanging with each other and not associating with other cultures. Students from some cultures are known to have better auditory skills and are more attentive. Students from different cultures process and learn at different ability levels. So similar answers. First 3 words are identical. No. Is there a theme here? I'm talking, let's see here. Similar culture, hanging out with each other, sharing. Culture. You can't say culture because that's all of them. If 3 of them talk about cultures, then I might have something there, but they all mention culture, so we can't go with that. That's a good observation. So I don't really see anything necessarily that jumps out and says, I'm going to group these couple of things together. But I do see some outliers here. Well, that's a good point. I'll go with that. Someone said we have alike cultures and similar. So I buy that. Let's put those together as a theme. So similar cultures and alike cultures. That means the same thing. Now, we do have some outliers here. Yes, very good point. A lot of people don't pick up on that. Students from some cultures are known to have better auditory skills and are more attentive. That's like saying my Hispanic kids in my classroom are better listeners than everybody else. What? You can't say that. You wind up on the news. So that's gone. The same philosophy for D. That's like saying, oh, my Hispanic students are smarter than everybody else. What? You can't say that either. If you didn't notice that at first glance when you read the question on the quiz, be honest. Who didn't notice C and D are completely inappropriate when we went through the quiz at the beginning? Be honest. Who didn't notice that right away? I'm sure a lot of you guys didn't notice that, and that's fine, okay? So let's look at the question now. So we crossed off 2. Mrs. Jones is teaching in an area where the school is known for its diversity and demographics of the area. Since the classroom is culturally mixed and has a wider range of ability levels, it's common for students from the same culture to have a similar knowledge base. So remember, we said similar as a theme. That definitely, same culture, ding, ding, ding. That just proves that C and D are not the answer. We're talking about same and sharing things. So keywords in the question, all right? Known for what? Diversity and demographics. Our classroom is what? Culturally mixed, wider range of ability levels. So what's our answer? Either A or B. What do you guys think? Good job. Makes it a lot easier when we're, this one's a pretty easy question, especially when we work backwards like that. All right, so the answer here is A. Now, why is it not B? Students from alike cultures hanging with each other and not associating with other cultures. That sometimes happens, right? If you're a high school teacher, right? Middle school, everybody hangs out with popular kids and what's trending. When you go to high school, if you look at, if you're able to look at a bird's eye view of a cafeteria, we don't like to admit this, but it's true. It's socialization. A lot of schools, a lot of high schools, kids gravitate to kids that they're similar with, like Hispanic, African-American, Caucasian. I know people mix, I'm not saying that, but a lot of people gradually move towards people of their same background. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about in the classroom, okay? So the answer here is A. All right, now, did you learn anything? Did we learn anything from what we're doing here? I know I did rapid fire here. I tried my best to model some of the strategies I teach in my professional ed course and all the other courses. I know some of you guys are like thinking, why the heck is this guy making, what is he talking about, theme stuff like that? If I start introducing and discussing how questions are written, this would have been a 4-hour session, all right? Now remember, I'm telling you at the beginning, I cannot stress this enough. This is not the only thing you need to pass this test. I opened up some eyes, great, I'm happy, that's why I do this. But please don't roll with this and go, I'm ready to take the test, because we have to understand exactly how these questions are written. We have to know everything to make this easy. I'm promising you, if your goal is to buy a study guide and memorize every page, make 200 flashcards, do practice tests over and over again, you're going to fail, because it doesn't matter how many vocab words you know, it's about how you apply them. It doesn't matter if you got all of them right, or 7 right, or 5 right, or 10 right, because you're not going to see these questions on the test, right? If you got them all right, great, but that doesn't mean you're ready for the test, all right? So hopefully I gave you some good information here. I'm going to put this up on the screen here. I see a lot of questions in the Q&A, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to stand up here, go to the computer. I'm going to address some of these questions for you guys. If you have any specific questions, you can go ahead and turn on your microphone if you want. I want to make sure that I answer every question for you guys. And remember, if you need any of the courses, that code is good for this whole month. And let me see here. What happens if you're on your year 3 of your temporary certificate? You don't have to pass it, because I know the state doesn't issue back-to-back. That doesn't have your person's name there. I know with the situation going on right now that they're going to extend deadlines. So if anyone out there has a June 30th deadline for your school district, they didn't give the dates they're going to extend it to, but I did say it's a case-by-case basis. So I would still plan to take it by June 30th. I know what's going to happen to a lot of people is that they're going to stop studying and they're going to say, oh my God, to the crap with this. I'm going to wait till the state. No way they're going to make me take this. You're still going to have to pass the test. Now, whether or not you have a June 30th date and they extend it, that's going to be on a case-by-case basis, right? So just plan to take it because you have plenty of time now to get ahead of the ball. And yes, they are going to waive testing fees for the next 120 days, but 30 of that is the test center is going to be closed. So keep that in mind. And you don't think that all these testing centers are going to fill up like that once they open the flood door, the floodgates to that. So don't plan on getting something for free. That's what I'm telling people. I know it sounds negative, but I'm a realist, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to get mad when they can't physically get into a testing center because all the seats are taken. So I know you guys already know this, but just to reiterate the fact that these testing centers don't just do FTC exams, they do all state exams. So you're securing a seat. So if all these seats go like that, and remember, all the tests for Pearson are all canceled. So all these other people that have to take all these other certification tests, like nursing tests and all this other stuff, they're going to be going there as well. So it's great if you get that opportunity, but don't plan for it. I already know a lot of teachers in our Facebook group that are paying and getting their dates later on just so they know that they got it. So if you can get it, great, but don't plan for it. Yes, Heather, there are versions of 110 questions. That is every year they do that. So most times you go to take the test, it's going to be 120, but there is a 110 version, right? That doesn't mean it's necessarily easier or harder. It's just the way that state mixes it up a little bit. The W in STO is words and phrases. Those are the action words. With question 7, if the students are asking the teacher questions, no, because Kelly, that's a good question. They can't ask questions if they don't understand the material, right? So the scenario stated that they don't understand what's going on. They don't know it. So you can't ask questions. The question is, what do you mean, right? They can't ask specific questions about content because they don't know anything, but that's a good question. Will they ever give us bogus answer choices? Nelly, good question. Yes, they will. A lot of times on this test, it'll be an answer choice that something that teachers should never do in the classroom, right? That would be considered a bogus kind of answer choice. William, magic number is 85. Viviana, I don't have a specific course for ESE. However, I have a basic strategy course called First Attempt Success. If you go to the website, it's under the subject area exam tab, and that will teach you all these strategies that I teach in the other courses and how to apply them to your exam. We have a lot of people that use the First Attempt course to pass their ESE, ESOL, social studies, all those subject area exams. Yes, Chico, it can be applied to K through 6, but we do have a specific course for elementary K through 6. Now's a great time to utilize that discount code to get specific strategies towards that exam. That's a good question. Let's get to some of these chat box questions. Jesse, unfortunately, we don't have one for reading plan. We just do the reading K through 12 because it's gonna be real hard to do that in a webinar forum. Any guesses on when we get? Yeah, William, that's a great question. I don't know. Honestly, it's all gonna relate back to the restrictions on travel, and more importantly, when these testing centers open. And I can't speak for other countries around the world, but I'm assuming testing centers in other countries are shut down too. So it's kind of a wait and see. I know it's not a good answer, but that's where we're at right now. All the stuff is happening so fast. Subject area first, and Justin, good question. I always said it depends on your program. If you're in an alt cert program, right, you got to do your GK. Well, first you need your subject area to get a job, then your GK, then your professional, right? But if you're a college student, then you have to do your GK first, subject area, and then professional. Nicole, I didn't say not to use study guides. I'm just saying they are one of the reasons why a lot of people fail. It's all about using them the right way. And I talk about that in my pro ed course, right? I'm not saying that they shouldn't use them. It's good for some content review. However, if you rely just on that and memorizing stuff, that's no bueno on this test. I see it every day. Oh, Justin, with Teachers of Tomorrow, yeah, I work a lot of Teachers of Tomorrow students. They have me on their certification page. It just depends on what your program asks you to do in order, because they do have an order. I would email your teacher ready counselor, or whatever they call them, that person in charge of your program. Sarah Miller is a good point of contact. Brianna, I would go with the course that's on the screen. If you go to the website, just click the FTCE button and you'll see an option for professional ed. So I only have one pro ed course for this. I do tutoring 101, but I only tutor people that are in my course. See if I got everyone's questions here. Kelly, good question. Any of the study guides are good. Anything like REA, Exam Online, any of the popular books are good. Just the key is that you don't have to memorize everything. I showed you these examples can be applied to any question. You don't have to necessarily know the meanings of the words in order to get them right. Just look at the root word. But if you need to brush up on some concepts and stuff, then any guide would do. You just have to be strategic. And I kind of talk about that in my Pro Ed course, how to use the guides. Brianna, yeah, if you sign up for the course, once you go through the course and you feel like you need some one-on-one help, then you can contact me. But yeah, I want you to go through the course too. Yeah, and if you, and thanks, William, for the shout out there. If you need to pass all your different exams, like your GK and subject area exams, check out the VIP course bundle. That's going to give you everything, all access to all the FTCE prep courses and practice tests in there. And I also, yesterday, added our new reading K through 12 course that's going to launch tomorrow, is going to be a part of that too. So if you guys need to get your reading endorsement, now, as you know, you can fast track that process by just passing the reading K through 12 test. Oh, he just walked in, William, so I'm sure he'd be happy to see that one. There he is. Say hi. Yes, I'm recording this and I'm going to put it on YouTube in the next couple of days, hopefully by tomorrow. Yes, real world is authentic. Authentic assessment. Yeah, anything relating it to real life. Jesse, no. GK reading and K through 12 reading are two different tests. There are a small handful of skills that transcend, but it's a very different exam. I always say about 3 weeks, a solid 3 weeks. It's all about practicing what I show you in that course. Chanel, unfortunately, I don't have anything specific for that exam or ESE, but that first attempt success course helped a lot of people pass that test. If you go to the website and click on FTCE and subject area exams, you're going to see it's called first attempt success. It's not content review for that test, but it'll teach you the test taking strategies and how to prepare the right way. It's all about consistency, Rosario. You guys got good questions here. It's all about consistency, right? Doing chunks each day. So whether it's 30 minutes, 60 minutes a day, but you do not want to do hours and bunch it up. Like, I'm going to study Saturday and Sunday for 8 hours each day. No, this is not college. We can't cram for these exams. It's all about being consistent, practicing effective strategies, and you'll be good. Jesse, it doesn't hurt to watch the K through 12 webinar. I uploaded on YouTube, but I mean, I only went through a handful of questions, and Sarah, the person who leads the content review, went over a couple little pieces of content. You can watch it, but it's not really geared towards that. The video course is 2 parts, total about 10 hours. It's 2 presentations. There's one presentation that I pre-recorded here, going through all 8 competencies, and then there's a second version at the bottom that's a recording of one of the live sessions that I did for a school. Or I should say here in the office. So it's the same presentation, but 2 different sets of questions in each. So I don't go over the same questions in each of them. No, we don't have a reading webinar. We have a GK reading bootcamp video course on our website you can access. John, yeah, we do have a math K through 12 course on our website. Yep, I've got the URL on the screen, thelearningliaisons.com. Pretty easy to navigate when you get there. You just choose what test you got to take, and you just follow the clicks to find your exam. Nicole, there's 2 different versions. You could pick for 2 months or a year. With the 50% off code, I definitely go with the year, because this way you'll have more time than you need for it. Because a lot of people, your plans change. You might have to cancel your test. So either 1 year or 2 months, but I definitely use that code for the year. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to shut it down here because we got to work on finishing that reading K through 12 course coming out tomorrow. So my email is on the screen. Take a picture of it, write it down. If you have any questions after you process everything here, feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'll respond to you as quick as I can. Usually I do it within 24 hours. I try my best. So you could email me there, or you can text me, 407-797-1499. 407-797-1499. So you guys have a great rest of your day. And if you know anyone that are parents and they have kids that are taking the SAT, tonight is our free webinar for parents and teenagers on the 3 keys to SAT success with our math director, Anderson. You could find that on the website. If you go to learningliaisons.com, just click on the big webinar button on the homepage, and you'll be able to sign up for that or share it as well. So check out some upcoming webinars this week. And if you have any questions, let me know. So you guys have oh, awesome. Okay, perfect. See Miss Marina, so your daughter will be there. Yeah, you too, hopefully. Right? It's geared towards the parents how to help their kids, but it's always good to have the kids there too with you so you guys can learn together. All right, so I'm going to shut down the room. I'm going to upload this as a recording, hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow. So we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. And remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass.